Welcome. We're back. It's your boy Q with the Black Four Horsemen podcast, reviewing episode 2 of WWE's Unreal series on Netflix. This is season 2, episode 2. And again, as I mentioned in the last video, even though all the episodes are dropped now, I'm not reviewing them all at once. I'm doing them one by one. So watch episode 2 tonight, and you're going to get my reviews and reactions to that. But not looking ahead and not knowing what each episode is going to be the subject of. This one here is one I was actually looking forward to. So in this episode, they focused based on two main characters, and that was R-Truth and Naomi. And it's funny how they focus on those two because they had similar stories as far as them, I guess, being released or leaving WWE and then coming back. But this one, and I noticed when it started, it was actually titled Unreal the Truth. So they started out focusing on R-Truth, or his real name, Ron Killings, how he started in the wrestling business, and when he was discovered. He actually, ironically, I'm wearing a Memphis shirt. I live in Memphis, but he was actually discovered wrestling in Memphis by Road Dogg, who at the time was an active WWE superstar. The Road Dogg, Jesse James, that we all know of from the New Age Outlaws as a tag team. But before that, he actually tagged up with R-Truth. He was going by the name K Quick when he first debuted, but Road Dogg saw Ron wrestling in Memphis, rapping into the ways, rapping and dancing on his ways to the ring, something that he still does to this day. Road Dogg approached him about possibly coming to WWE because he even mentioned it. R-Truth mentioned in the documentary that he was about to quit. And I've seen documentaries before with him about that, where he said when he thought about quitting because it wasn't working as fast as he wanted to. He talked about wanting to be a rapper and be a music artist, and just fell into wrestling. And there's been documentaries and stories about R-Truth and some of the things that he did in the past that kind of took him down this road. That's a whole other documentary that you should look it up because it's an interesting story as far as the people that you meet in your life that kind of directs you in the path that you ultimately ends up being your career. So this episode focused on their relationship. So R-Truth's relationship and Road Dogg's relationship. Road Dogg currently is a backstage producer. He's actually over and actually head creator over the SmackDown brand. So they build this episode, this first part of the show, with them being best friends and their relationship. It talks about the conflicts they had on how to handle the R-Truth character as it was coming to the end of. Granted, R-Truth had been there for years. One thing I want to say, at least 20 years, if not more. They talked about his relationship with all the current superstars in the back, about everyone loves R-Truth, and to refresh you on what happened that we know of even before this documentary in real life, is that I think they mentioned it, June 1st of 2025, R-Truth was told that his contract would not be renewed with WWE, and he got released. And he put the tweet out. The whole world saw it. Everybody was reacting to it. Even current superstars were reacting like, how can you let R-Truth go? That doesn't make any sense. R-Truth is a staple here. And I remember saying it just among my friends in our group chats, is that, Triple H has been criticized for some of the decisions that he's made since he's taken over the company. But in my honest opinion, if Vince McMahon was still running WWE, this would have never happened. R-Truth is one of those superstars that deserve like a lifetime contract, if they even have that in wrestling. I don't know, but he deserves a lifetime contract. And to let his contract expire, and then Triple H mentioned in the documentary that they couldn't agree on the terms of the money. But I realized, and especially in this part of Triple H said a lot of conflicting things. So he says that that once they would not. He told R-Truth, we're gonna let your contract lapse. We're not gonna renew it. But then he comes back and says that R-Truth was never not under contract with WWE. If you remember, that he came back in Money in the Bank, and they mentioned that in the show. The press conference that Triple H said it did afterwards, he said it was all part of the story. Well, that was a lie based on what we just saw. It was not part of the story. Uh, you guys let his contract lapse. You didn't realize the backlash you would get, the reaction you would get not only from current superstars but also the internet and wrestling fans, because they showed it on Unreal the next night on Raw, the "We Want Truth" chants throughout the building. And Triple H saying he was never fired. But they also talked about when they did finally talk into room. I think R-Truth even mentioned that Nick Khan called him, and they were able to establish a deal. I guess the numbers they got it to both parties were happy with it, and so now that they've got him re-signed, they show how do we bring R-Truth back. The Before he was released, they had talked in creative. They showed them about a feud with him and John Cena. Now, at this time, John Cena was on his heel turn and his heel run, and R-Truth has mentioned several times about part of his gimmick about John Cena being his childhood hero, John Cena being his older brother, and I think it was Bruce Pritchard mentioned in the Unreal show that R-Truth was 5 years older than John Cena. So how could John Cena, be his childhood hero? But that's how Truth was. He was that funny guy, always finding the comedic path toward his feuds and his storylines and stuff. So you set up what we all saw that after, I want to say it was Elimination Chamber. Yeah, 'cause I think Elimination Chamber. No, it had to be after. It had to be, yeah, it was Elimination Chamber because they set up the match with Cody. I'm thinking about when John Cena turned heel. So now that John Cena is healed, you saw R-Truth come out to talk about how proud he was for winning the championship. John Cena put R-Truth through the table, and that set up the feud. And then literally after that match, that's when we heard the news about R-Truth being released. So I think maybe it may have been 2 weeks, maybe three. It wasn't long before they brought R-Truth back, but they set it up where he would interfere in John Cena's next match, which ended up being this is at the next PLE, which was going to be Money in the Bank, with R-Truth. No, sorry, Cody and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul in a tag match. And it's funny that I noticed that they kept it hush hush. Only a handful of people knew that R-Truth had signed a deal and was coming back. But you saw Triple H have to tell people so that when it did happen, they wouldn't freak out and do something that wasn't planned. So I think Cody knew, of course, John Cena knew because he was going to be attacking John Cena. They said that Pat McAfee knew, but Michael Cole did not, and they did it on purpose because they wanted Michael Cole to have a real reaction when it was revealed that R-Truth was back. And maybe a couple more producers knew backstage, and that was it. Even mentioned during the match. So the match happens. You get the cue for R-Truth to run in. He attacks John Cena, beats him down, takes out the hoodie, reveals it himself, and the crowd goes wild. I remember when this happened live. The way, granted, black people have a certain way that they move, a certain way that they stand. And as soon as I didn't even notice some of his skin was actually showing until I saw it down, like the bottom of his hoodie, his ankles were showing. But the way he stood in the ring, I remember saying, "Oh, that guy's black." Before he even took the hoodie out, I said, "That guy's black." And as soon as he revealed it, R-Truth, of course, the crowd goes wild and everything. They mentioned in the documentary that Triple H ran out of time. He was actually trying to let Jey Uso and Logan Paul know he was coming too, because so they wouldn't freak out. But by the time he got to them, they had already went to the ring and didn't get a chance to tell them. So they were surprised as well. And I love the fact that they showed the content creators, the internet community, internet wrestling community, their reactions to R-Truth coming back, because they didn't mention it in the documentary, but wholeheartedly believe that our truth is back in WWE, came back and is currently back in WWE because of the way the internet reacted to him being released. That's just the whole "we want truth" chance swayed WWE to sign that deal. And I mentioned before about in the beginning of the show they talk about the relationship that he has with Road Dogg. Road Dogg. This episode, and I'm going to say the top was very emotional from both sides of the story. And I'm on R Truth and Naomi, and we're gonna talk about Naomi here in a second. But you saw how Road Dogg reacted to R Truth being released. I mean, he was emotional. He was crying. So to see that he's coming back, he joked about knowing that that was R Truth by his ankles that he saw in the ring. I don't know if it's because you could see his skin from the pants or just the way how small his ankles is, but Road Dogg, who was not aware that R Truth was coming back that night, once he saw the hooded figure, he knew that it was R Truth. So that was basically, I mean, they kind of went back and forth throughout the episode, but that was basically Truth's version uh, of the whole release and him coming back. That's how with Triple H mentioned that this was as he saw him talk to R Truth that did nothing personal. This was all business, and you're glad that they got things worked out and got the new deal coming in. But if you remember when I think it was the next night after Money in the Bank, R Truth cut his hair, and people thought he was crazy. We was I'm driving now that whole promo, and I knew it at the time. I mean, R Truth was losing his hair. I mean, he was going bald. He even mentioned it in the show. That's why he wanted to cut the locks off because yeah, he's been his signature look since he got in WWE. So you understand he was losing that hair. Once that receding hairline starts going back, yeah, it was time to let the hair go. So that was the whole point of getting the scissors, cutting it off, and basically going blonde. I mean, going bald. Excuse me. Because once he cut those off, you can shave it down, get your low fade, tape it on the side. So, but yeah, that was the basically our truth's part of the Unreal this Unreal episode. The other part was Naomi, and they mentioned it because they had very similar stories about them leaving WWE for not on the right terms at the time, but then coming back and making things right. I was surprised that they mentioned that when Naomi left, Naomi and Sasha Banks left. Now I guess because of what Mercedes is doing now in AEW, they're okay with saying that's Sasha Banks' name because that's the character's name, not saying Mercedes. But I was kind of a little annoyed by Triple H said Sasha Banks' name. I think my Road Dogg mentioned it as well. But one of the other producers kept saying Naomi and her partner. They wouldn't mention Sasha's name, which I don't understand that part. You've been saying it through the show. Why not continue to say Sasha Banks' name? But either way, so they talked about, but before even talking about her leaving, they talked about Naomi Starr, about being a dancer for the Orlando Magic and going into FCW. They mentioned how she met Jimmy Uso, who Jonathan Fatu, who's her real life husband now, and their relationship and how they met, and about how their relationship was different once she left. And her situation, if you remember back, wasn't a contract thing. It was a creative. It was a what's the word I'm trying to say? A conflict in creative for what they wanted her and Sasha to do that night on Raw. They said, forget it. There's no need for the tag team champions to be at odds with each other involved in this six-pack challenge match against 4 other women. So they basically took their ball and went home. And they didn't mention it in the show, but we all know Naomi went on to TNA, kind of restarted her career there, built a name under her real name as Trinity. And then she came back in the Royal Rumble of this year. So I guess that would have been either January or February of 2025 is when she came back. She was participating in the Royal Rumble. They talked about her after the Royal Rumble, and still having that same look as before, she wanted her character to change, and that's where they decided to turn Naomi heel, and we had the whole drama between Naomi, Jade Cargill, and Bianca Belair, when Naomi pushed Jade out the car, and then Bianca not knowing about it and being revealed later that it was her, and that conflict of friendship between the three, and of course Naomi goes on to win Money in the Bank. They mentioned that on the show how they set up that match, the idea of showing how the spots were going to work, and the idea of putting the Money in the Bank briefcase on Naomi because she was so hot as a heel and so on top. We all know what happened later on. I don't know if they're going to mention that, depending on how they did the filming, about what happened to Naomi later on that year. She, she gets, when she's on her hottest run ever, she gets pregnant. So now she's off TV. I don't know if that's coming up or not, but in this particular episode, they just talk about her winning Money in the Bank. She will go on to win the title, which we know that was not shown in this episode. But overall, I mean, so it's only been 2 episodes, but so far I did enjoy this episode better than the first one. Again, it was very emotional, not only with R-Truth, but also Naomi and everything that she's going through. There was a scene, a behind the scenes scene with Naomi and Lillian Garcia after Naomi won the Money in the Bank briefcase, about how proud she is, because Lillian was there in the beginning as um, a ring announcer and backstage with the other ladies, and she mentioned how she saw how Naomi worked, how she was a leader in that locker room, and how she worked behind the scenes to get to where she is now. So she's very proud of her. So overall, very emotional show. I think, again, I like this episode better than the first one. But yeah, that's my review. We're looking at about almost 20 minutes now. A review of episode 2. I plan on watching episode 3 tomorrow. It kind of depends on how my schedule goes, and I'll drop that episode, this episode of a review or reaction to episode 3 uh, later on tomorrow night. So anyway, so I appreciate y'all joining me on, and again, as I say, if I say in every video, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it. Let's get these likes up. I appreciate your support, and until I talk to y'all again, peace.